Welcome to another broadcast of the Lorain County Commissioners' General Meeting. Unless otherwise announced, meetings are held Thursday mornings at 9:30 at the Lorain County Administration Building, 226 Middle Avenue, 4th floor, downtown Elyria. These are public meetings, and as always, you are invited to attend.
You want to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everybody. Come here, baby. Oh, you don't want him to pee on the tree.
On my plant? No.
You know how to sit?
Oh, he's soap. He or she? Soap.
Today we have a 1.5-year-old shepherd mix. He's in cage 9 and he's available for adoption. Is he available now, Jack? He's available today. He'd make a great birthday present for my sons, whose birthdays today, Jordan and Joe. I have to say happy birthday to them. But he's a little too big for me. I don't think he'd fit through my doggy door, so I had to find a smaller one. So come down to our come down to our dog kennel and find yourself a nice dog. We have lots of them. Thank you.
Oh. Look, just scratch his ears, Lorain. Scratch his ears. Look. Hey. Oh, he's got beautiful brown eyes.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the March 30th Lorain County Board of Commissioners meeting. And our clerk does not have an agenda, so I guess we have to wait. We can wait? Okay. The thought for today, if you have a choice of seats on the bus, you're late for work, and it kind of goes along with our early is on time is late. Okay.
We're ready. Recognition certificate?
Yeah, Betty, would you like to do the recognition?
Renee Haggerty? Renee, are you here? Okay. I have a little history to read first. This has been supplied by the Solid Waste Department. It says it all began in 2002 when Renee Haggerty was a 5th grade student at Windsor School in Elyria. A school trip to the Great Lakes Science Center and a display on the effects of mercury contamination on Lake Erie led her to ask her parents if the batteries that contributed to mercury pollution were being recycled. Renee's mother, Judy Haggerty, a teacher at Eastgate School, called the Solid Waste Management District office in in 2003 for more information about battery recycling. By coincidence, the district staff had been actively studying the problem. With just a few phone calls, a basic outline was developed, and the district agreed to support Renee's original idea as a pilot program. The district provided some collection boxes and agreed to pick up the collection batteries in 6 weeks and take them to their general hazardous waste collection day. With the help of her sister Jeanette, Renee wrote and produced a short promotional video about mercury pollution and battery recycling that was shown in the 10 Elyria schools she had convinced to participate. The result of that first short collection effort was 1,037 pounds, just over a half a ton of used batteries to be recycled. Renee and her sister and parents have been the motivating force in the battery recycling program at the Elyria schools ever since. In 2004, with a longer collection period and more schools, the total hit 4,677 pounds. In 2005, 3,139 pounds were collected. Now, in 2006, the program extends the whole length of the school year, and every school is participating. Plus, this experience has been invaluable to the district in testing different types of collection containers, delivery methods, and all the other parts of a successful long-term program. The resulting publicity has also allowed the district to expand the number of pilot programs to include the Elyria Memorial Hospital Healthcare System and the City of Oberlin, and several more school systems also are interested in joining. In the process, Renee's efforts have been recognized by several national groups, including the National Geographic Society, the Gloria Barron Foundation, and most recently the Prudential Foundation. She has also won a trip to Disney for her efforts. And this morning we would like to give Renee a proclamation recognizing her as the 11th Annual Prudential Spirit of Community Awards Program, naming her one of Ohio's top 2 youth volunteers for 2006. Renee is an 8th grader at Northwood School, and her project was to initiate a series of school-based collection drives that led to the recycling of nearly 4 tons of household batteries. We thank Renee for her concern and commitment to the county and its future, and this is signed by your county commissioners. Renee, would you come forward, please?
First of all, I would like to thank the County Commissioners for their long-term support in the beginning of this project and their continued support of this project. Without your support, this project never would have gotten off the ground. Next, I would like to introduce the people here with me today, Dr. Tom Jama, the principal at Northwood, and Renee Nall, the secretary there. I would like to thank the Commissioners for honoring my achievements today. But more importantly, I would like to thank the Commissioners. Oh, I already said that part. Sorry.
You can say this as many times as you want.
Yes, I really do need to say that more than once. I also need to thank the members of the City of Elyria, the students, and the members of the cities around the country that have supported this project. Also, in Greenwich, England, this project has been featured in a museum, the Royal Maritime Museum, and they are also beginning to start a program there. As an update on the project, we have collected 4.5 tons of used batteries, and we are in our 4th year. It is my hope that in the next few years, recycling batteries will become a habit so that when I am no longer able to oversee this project, it will continue to thrive. Thank you once again for your support.
You're welcome.
Congratulations,
Very
Renee.
nice.
Madam Chair, I'd also like to recognize Dan Billman, our solid waste director, who is not here today because he had another commitment, but 2 of his staff are here, Dan Paluch and Brandy Mitchell, and thank you for cooperating with Renee so that we could in fact do this for our county. It's a wonderful program. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, really going down to resolutions.
I'm going to go down to number 2 because we can't do the public hearing until 10 a.m.
Okay.
So we're just going to go to number 2 first. Job and Family Services bills.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Sorry.
Ms. Kukowski.
Aye.
Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Ms. Blair. Investments.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kukowski.
Aye.
Ms. Blair.
Aye.
Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Appropriations.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kukowski.
Aye.
Ms. Blair.
Aye.
Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Transfers.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kukowski.
Aye.
Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Ms. Blair.
Aye.
Advances and repayments.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Ms. Blair.
Aye.
Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Requisitions.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Ms. Blair.
Aye.
Travel expenses.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Ms. Blair.
Aye.
Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Bills.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Ms. Blair.
Aye.
Under the Commissioners, authorize various personnel actions as indicated on the summary sheet for employees within jurisdiction of Lorain County Commissioners.
Commissioners, I have a few hiring issues to discuss with you from the county home and one from transit, and also Mr. Kaler, you requested that we have an update on a matter of
April 4th and
litigation.
5th, correct.
Right, so I have made that call, and I believe we'll also be able to discuss that issue.
Okay.
So I would request an executive session at the conclusion of our regular business today to discuss those matters, which are permitted under the Sunshine Law. Thank you.
For clarification, April 4th and 5th is pending litigation, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Approve the Commissioners' meeting minutes and waive the reading of the same for October 24th and 25th, 2005, which is the complete transcripts of those 2 public hearings we had on Carlisle. I mean, they're kind of like this, so those are the transcripts. And then March 2nd, 7th, and 15th, 2006.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Approve an addendum to the existing agreement with Collins, Gordon, Bostwick Architects, Cleveland, in the amount of $20,800 to perform additional architectural services for Phase 4 at Lorain County Justice Center, to be paid from accounts Q Construction, Professional Service Account, and Capital Improvements. 1, the parking lot at 3rd and Middle, remove the existing asphalt paving down to subbase and repave to approximately match existing grades, repair existing collapsed catch basin. And 2, Justice Center 3rd Street parking lot, complete construction of the asphalt paved surface parking lot with storm drainage and site lighting, including decorative wrought iron-like fence with masonry repairs on 3rd Street side and fence along west property line.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Mr. Cortez, how many spaces are we looking at for these 2 projects?
Well, the one parking lot is has a sinkhole in it now, so we have to fix it. It's the one right across the street in the corner. I've since 1993, we haven't done any work on that corner parking lot. We definitely need to make repairs and upkeep to the pavement there to maintain it in an acceptable condition. The other lot will be small, depending on how we stripe it. It'll be between 11 and 14 spaces. It's not a very large lot. If you remember, it's where the old adult probation house was, right behind the church. While the building was quite large, the parcel was small, and the building took up the whole parcel because of requirements for spacing between cars and turn radiuses. We're not able to get a lot of spots in there, but I have to tell you that we're buying parking space by the square foot downtown Elyria right now, and regardless of 10, 15, or 8, we have to have this parking lot over there by the Justice Center, and it's not a lot of spots, but it's going to help, and we're still actively looking for other options. I'm afraid to say that the situation is not going to get better, but going to get much worse in downtown Elyria with parking over the next few years. And that's why we're asking for this project to move forward with that lot, and that'll be used to support Justice Center parking.
And this should be completed by summer?
Yes, I believe probably by summer's end, early fall. It's not a really big lot. We probably should have included it last year when we did the lot in the back, but we just decided to group it with the corner lot over here this year.
Okay,
Thank
thank you.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Iron Community Development, award contract to James Proff and Sons Excavating, West Salem, in the amount of $5,060, which includes a 10% contingency for any unforeseen change orders for Virginia Sheldon at 45941 State Route 162 in Huntington Township, as a grant for a roof repair and replacement. 6 bids were received, this being the most responsive, complying with specifications, to be paid from CDBG FY05 Emergency Home Repair Account.
I believe it's supposed to be POF, P-O-F-F, not P-R-O-F.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
War contract to KMU Trucking and Excavating, Inc., Avon, in the amount of $1,689.50, which includes a 10% contingency for any unforeseen change orders for Norman and Ann Sanders at 6645 Rosedale Drive, Amherst Township, as a grant for sanitary sewer connection. 3 bids were received, this being the most responsive, complying with specifications, to be paid from account CDBG FY04 Emergency Home Repair.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Award contract to KM Trucking and Excavating, Inc., Avon, in the amount of $4,356, which includes a 10% contingency for any unforeseen change orders for Albert Dusky at 44785 Middle Ridge Road, Amherst, as a grant for a sanitary sewer connection. 3 bids were received, this being the most responsive, complying with specifications, to be paid from CDBG FY04 Emergency Home Repair.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Award contract to James Poff and Sons Excavating, West Salem, in the amount of $2,255, which includes a 10% contingency for any unforeseen change orders for Charles and Phyllis Thomas at 8305 Overland Road, Amherst, as a grant for a sanitary sewer connection. 3 bids were received, this being the most responsive, complying with the specifications, and will be paid from CDBG FY04 Emergency Home Repair.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Under the dog warden, approve and enter an agreement with Maximus, Inc., Concord Township, in the amount of $6,000 for assistance in developing cost rates for animal control services in Lorain County. Ohio House Bill 88 amended Ohio Revised Code 955.17, allowing the county to determine its full cost of providing specialized services by the county dog warden.
So moved. I have questions.
I'll second, but go ahead, discussion.
Is this a way for us to raise costs for dog licenses and things like that, or what is the purpose of this?
Under the Ohio Revised Code, the Board of Commissioners is able to raise the tag fees in $2 increments. The ratio has to be balanced between, we also charge a kennel fee for people that have home kennels, so it has to be a ratio between the two. So you could raise the tag fees at any time you deem it necessary to do so, as long as you do it in $2 increments. However, we have a lot of other fees that we charge at the kennel that, in accordance with the revised code, we have to do a cost basis study to justify those fees. My thinking earlier this year was that we probably shouldn't have 2 different fee increases at 2 different times. We probably should do it all together. And we need to do this study so we can make a recommendation to the board on what those fees should be. To be quite candid with you, my intentions are to recommend a fee to you, an increase on the licensing fee and on some of the fees that we charge at the kennel, because the operations are becoming more costly with the additional burden that's been placed on us with Lorain and Elyria, where we're definitely going to be in a revenue deficit situation with the operation of the kennel. You have 2 choices at that point. You contract the services we provide to kennel operations only, or we raise fees and we continue to try to provide additional services within the community, such as going out on calls for strays and animals at large. Just today, we're in the paper again with issues with dogs, and I will tell you that your responsibilities under the code are to provide kennel services, not to provide call-out services or to chase vicious dogs down the road. The Ohio Revised Code does not demand any such service. It's very similar to what we do with the Sheriff's Department. You're required to run a jail, but you're not required to run a deputy force to provide patrolling services. I would hope that once we do the cost study, we can find a way of continuing to provide those services in the community, but that's going to be up to the board at that point how they want to handle that. Right now, the war of words with the city of Lorain is getting a little out of hand, and they've had a large problem in the city of Lorain for a number of years, and I don't think I'm telling you anything, Lori. And yesterday, my comments were a little bit strong with regard to that, because now people are indicating the county isn't doing its job, and that's nonsensical and silly. That problem has existed for a long time, and we're providing the very same services to Lorain that we're providing to the other communities. They just need a more aggressive approach in Lorain, and they have a problem that they need to deal with. So that's what this is all about, and we should have this back by midsummer, and I'll have more dialogue with you about some recommendations, and then the board can gauge their tolerances from there and what they want to do.
Okay.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Under Job and Family Services, instruct the clerk to advertise requests for proposals to be published in the Morning Journal on April 4th and 11th, and be open on April 18th in the Commissioners' Public Hearing Room at 2:30 p.m. for Job Training, Placement, and Retention Program, and 3 p.m. for Homemaker, Home Health Aid Services, and Adult Protection Services.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Under Solid Waste, provide incentive prizes in the amount of $1,100 to the Elyria City School District for use in their household battery cycling collection to be paid from account Solid Waste Management District Program Implementation Funds.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Yeah, Renee, would you give someone else a chance to win the 1,100 in prizes?
No, it goes to the schools.
Oh, okay.
There's a
Incentive
breakdown.
prizes.
Yeah, each school.
Yeah.
First, second, third, most improved.
Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Ms. Blair.
Aye.
Under Transit, approve and enter an agreement on behalf of Lorain County Transit with Vermillion Community Services Council in the amount of $18,950 as a reimbursement to provide services for Vermillion, Vermillion Township, Brown Hill Township, Lorain County Community Health Partners, Cleveland Clinic from Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., effective retroactive from January 1st, 2006 through December 31st, 2006.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Ms. Blair.
Aye.
Mr. Kayla.
Aye.
Under Children's Services, instruct the clerk to advertise for bids for third-floor Children's Services Office alterations. This notice will be published in the Chronicle Telegram on April 3rd and 10th, and bids to be open at 2 p.m. on April 24th in Commissioners' Public Hearing Room.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Comment. There's an estimate of cost, and I would like Mr. Cortez to just have a little discussion about this, because it seems there's a great deal of interest in what the commissioners are doing with this building, and I think we just ought to reiterate the necessity for bringing this building up to this century.
Thank you, Commissioner, and you're probably right. It is a great opportunity since we've received a small amount of criticism for things that we're doing. First of all, the funding for the renovation of this building have been parked in capital improvement accounts now for about 3 or 4 years. We actually saved a little bit every year, knowing that this building was going to need a significant renovation. This building was built in 1972. First of all, it's the codes that were prevailing in 1972, which now are much more stringent than they were then. Secondly, the building has not had any significant infrastructure upgrades in the 34 years that it was serving Lorain County. No HVAC, no electrical, some paint, some carpet, an occasional wall movement. And normally what's been done over the last 15 years is larger spaces have shrunk into much smaller and smaller spaces as we needed more offices, until we had people sitting in broom closets with no windows and no ventilation and so forth. With the opening of the Justice Center, we embarked upon a very aggressive project to renovate this entire building, which began with a significant electrical infrastructure upgrade that this board participated in. One of the first things you did, I think, early on when you first came here.
Johnson Controls.
Well, the Johnson Controls was the HVAC. The electrical was recommended by Johnson Controls. We did a separate project to do all the electrical upgrades. And then we did the Johnson Controls on the HVAC, the lighting, some plumbing upgrades, massive amount of infrastructure improvements so that the taxpayers will receive benefit from this building for at least another 30 years. Building another building of this size would have cost $25 or $30 million minimum. We're going to put in about, I would say about $6 million, maybe $6.5 million in the total renovation, and that's a ground-up renovation over the next year as we continue to renovate the 5th floor, the 4th floor, and now Children's Services is renovating the entire 3rd floor. Our thinking is to recommend to the board later this year, once we finish the 5th floor, we'd also like to do some lobby upgrades and some renovations in there and see if we can't improve that space down there. And of course, we always have ongoing renovations in the garage. With that opportunity, the commissioners were able to renovate some better office space for themselves and senior staff that we didn't have before, and some meeting rooms and conferencing rooms with state-of-the-art technology, so we don't have to have Shirley and Elizabeth tell us they can't hear us all the time. And I can't wait to unveil that new room with them and be over there, and also to provide for people to access information better, such as we'll have document carts where we can slip a document under a reader so everybody in the public can see what we're looking at the same time we're working on it, instead of 19 people huddling around one little map. And also, you're going to get a presentation here in a little while, and we're going to be showing it on the wall again. When we get done with the conference room, which the new hearing room, there'll be monitors around the room, and there'll be ability for everybody to see what's going on and make a professional presentation. We did not lavish things on the renovation. There's no private bathrooms for the commissioners. There's no, there really isn't a lot of frills, and most of, a good portion of the amount of cost came through the energy conservation upgrade for some nice lighting and things that's going to be paid back by the energy savings. So $3.5 million will come back through energy cost reductions that Johnson Controls is guaranteed to pay us back. The whole thing was for $400,000, about $4 million, about $3.5 million is recoverable over the life of the energy savings, and so the taxpayers will also receive significant benefit. It's almost like getting free money by doing that upgrade, and we really haven't been given a lot of proper credit for the efficiencies that we're putting into that and in that program. And I'd also like to make one remark about the monitors that were placed on the walls in my office and the commissioner's office. We get our meetings on DVDs and on videotapes, and a lot of times we want to review the meetings, we want to look over what occurred, and the only way we can do that is to call maintenance, have a maintenance worker go down, get the TV on a cart, wheel it through the lower level, put it in the elevator, bring it up in the elevator, wheel it into the office. You watch it for a half an hour, 45 minutes. Then they send the maintenance worker up, get the cart, wheel it back downstairs. I mean, the applied time and the effectiveness of that is just simply ridiculous. By installing a monitor in the commissioner's office space allows them to do that very, very quickly. Thereby, if you look at the effectiveness and you do the cost-benefit analysis, the recovery period is very, very quick on the cost outlay for that. Plus, we also receive a lot of promotional material in DVD and videotape format that before we were sitting around trying to figure out how to use it. Again, call for the equipment to be wheeled back upstairs. It's pretty archaic. It's pretty early 1900s technology way of doing business, and it was very, very cost effective to do that. And I know you've been criticized for that, and I think wrongfully so. I think that you need to have that, and we'll be tying in the commissioner's computers in the near future to those monitors to provide an additional capability to be able to put a PowerPoint presentation in your office. If you're having people up and you're going over material with them, rather than having to even leave your room, you'll be able to have them loaded up right there on your computer and plug in, and then you'll be able to do that right in your office. So if somebody's making a demonstration or doing a business plan which you are promoting a development, you'll be able to see that right there in your office rather than having to drag that out of the building also. So a lot of those criticisms are unfounded. Maybe a little information goes a long way with this. And the taxpayers will have this building for at least another 30 years after these renovations are done. And I thank Commissioner Blair for giving me the opportunity to explain a little bit of that. And if there's any questions out there from the public later on, I have no problem answering any of that. We're being conscious about what we're doing.
I'm just happy my computer works every day, and I fit more than 2 people in my office, and it's not some days 110 degrees and other days 40 degrees, depending on the time of the year in my office. I don't have to go back to Lorain to do my work all day, so I think it was quite efficient the way you put it together and the prices that were done for it, because you're always very good at
Well, I appreciate that.
working on the bid packages. So,
Are we going to bring Yvonne out of the lower level now?
Yes, Yvonne's coming home later in April. In fact, we spoke yesterday, and purchasing will be moving back to the wing where they started out. At least you and I started out there back in '93. We're renovating on that wing as we speak. Current plans that we talked about is bringing transit back over to bringing transit to this building. They'll occupy the lower level suites for a while we work on the train station, and then we'll liquidate our holdings in the condo over on One Park Landing. We're also looking at renovating some additional space downstairs in-house to house the Children and Family First folks that are crammed in over at Job and Families. Job and Family has been very, very good about housing them for a number of years, but they're in the middle of stuff there, and it's inconvenient for everybody. But they've been, I don't want to diminish the fact that Mary Lou has put them in there at no cost to us or to the Job and Family First department. But we need to move them also, and those things should be taking place within the next few months. And you'll have more of your staff here, and you'll have more efficiencies with having more of your staff here. And then, of course, community development is coming back. Should be sometime in June. Does that ring a bell, Ron? So in June, so things are on track upstairs also with those renovations. And there's a lot going on, Commissioners, and sometimes a little bit of information gets twisted around, and you don't get the proper. I don't want to use the word respect, but people rather say what they think they know rather than what they do know with some of those things. So it's a good project, and it'll benefit the taxpayers for a lot of decades to come.
Thank you. Do we
Ms.
want to go
Kukowski?
to the
We're going to
public
vote
hearing?
first. Can we
Aye.
take the vote first?
Sure.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Do you want me to go to, or
I
do you
think
want
we
me to
should
finish
go-
these two first and then do it?
We're gonna
So
get
we're
two
done
quick
with
ones.
Okay,
regular business.
all right.
Under the engineers, instruct the clerk to advertise for bids to replace Cali Road Bridge 0255 and widening Cali Road Bridge 3050. This notice will be published in the Morning Journal on April 4th and 11th, and bids to be open 2 p.m. on April 18th in the Commissioners' Public Hearing Room.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion. Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Under Forensic Services, instruct the clerk to advertise for bids for a new gas.
Spectrometer.
Yeah, that's good. Notice to be published in the Chronicle Telegram on April 3rd and 10th, and bids to be open at 2:30 on April 17th in the Commissioners' Public Hearing Room.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
We'll go to the public hearing. 10 o'clock, the first public hearing on CDBG FY06.
Mr. Twining.
Good morning, Commissioners. I have with me today Rebecca Jones. She's going to be passing out a sign-up sheet and handing out some information for this public hearing. This is the first public hearing that we are obligated to hold for the to be eligible for the Small Cities Community Development Block Grant, also known as CDBG. This program uses both state and federal dollars and is administered locally by the Board of County Commissioners through the Community Development Department, and we will be located at 226 Middle Avenue. As I begin today, I need to remind everybody there are two types of communities. There are acquired communities and entitlement communities. Entitlement communities must have a population greater than 50,000 residents. In Lorain County, that's the city of Elyria and city of Lorain. There are entitlement cities and entitlement counties. In order to receive they receive funds directly from the federal government. Those are the entitlement cities and counties. In order to be an entitlement county, once you remove the entitlement city's population from the county population, your population must exceed 200,000. We are close, but we are just below that, so we are an acquired county. And as an acquired county, we must receive our funding from HUD through the Ohio Department of Development. And I think that that's a distinction we need to remind people periodically. Today, it's our desire to inform the public that this program is available, the types of eligible projects. The state of Ohio has identified its general objectives for the use of these funds, and you can look at those objectives that Ohio has identified by going to the website for the Department of Development. The total anticipated federal allocation to the state has been divided and budgeted to meet the community's needs, and we are prepared to hear from persons, organizations, and officials of this county concerning their needs that exist in Lorain County and their communities at this public hearing today. As an overview to the CDBG plan receives its authority from the Housing Community Development Act of 1974, and it was amended in 1992. HUD entitlement and small cities CDBG allocation to the state. The Act established 3 national objectives, and we must meet those national objectives in order to acquire funding through CDBG. Those national objectives are: first, it must benefit low and moderate income persons and households. Secondly, aid in the elimination of slum and blight conditions. And third, must meet an urgent community development need. It only needs to meet one of those, but in order to be eligible, it must meet at least one of those 3 national objectives. The Act further establishes a list of eligible community development activities which can be funded through CDBG dollars to include activities designed to create jobs for low-income and moderate-income individuals, provisions for housing, specifically the improvement of housing stock and items related to the improvement of housing stock. Third, public facility improvements. Fourth, activities designed to remove architectural barriers. And fifth, the public service activities under certain circumstances. These 5 activities can be undertaken as long as they meet one of the 3 stated national objectives of benefit, elimination of slum and blight, and the urgent community need. The state of Ohio is expecting to distribute $20.8 million in federal 2006 Housing and Urban Development, or HUD funds. Additionally, the state funds will be earmarked to provide a match. Lorain County will receive a 10.2% reduction in its formula funds allocation this year. We had been prepared for a 25% reduction of the federal dollars, since the federal government had made it clear that they would be gathering CDBG funds from all over the United States to allocate to the hurricane victims and the disaster that happened a year ago. So we feel somewhat pleased that it's only a 10% rather than the 25% cut in our funding. 2005 allocation, last year, the year we're administering this, was $424,000. 2004 allocation was $448,000, and in 2003 we were granted $454,000. In fiscal year 2006, Lorain County's allocation is $381,000. That, between 2003 and today's allocation, amounts to a 16% reduction over that 3 or 4 year period. If you have any questions, you can contact our office. Our number is 328-2332, or you can mail to us at the 226 Middle Avenue. Tomorrow we will be sending out, that's March 31st, applications to the Lorain County cities, villages, and townships that are eligible under the county's guidelines. And we will also send them to past public service providers. Typically that includes the Lorain County Urban League, the County Reinvestment Coalition, Neighborhood House, and the senior citizens of Lorain County. The deadline for submitting your application to the county will be at 4 o'clock Friday, May 26th, so you have time to put that together. From May 26th until July 9th, the county, our staff, will be making a recommendation based on the applications we received and the directives provided to us by the county commissioners. We will be putting together our application. We will hold a second public hearing, and I believe we're going to try and do that around the 15th of June, so that if there's any adjustments as of that second public hearing, we can make those adjustments prior to submitting to the state our 2006 CDBG application. At this point, I will ask if there are any questions that the audience has concerning this public hearing.
I do. My question is...
Richard, they want you up here.
Richard, state your name and address for the record, please.
Richard Romero, 1405 West Erie Avenue, Director of the Multicultural Business Center in the City of Lorain. You know, when you're looking at low to moderate income, in fact, the Multicultural Business Center is really trying to address those issues. The unemployment rate among the minority community is generally 3 times as high as the overall unemployment rate. This is, in my opinion, an opportunity for us to make a positive impact through these funds, and I would hope that the county commissioners will take into account the high percentage of minorities that live in the 2 cities that Ron mentioned. You know, not too many people are aware of the fact that in the city of Lorain, that city's Hispanic community is 25, and some of us are thinking it's closer to 30% of that city's population. Combine that with the African American community, that city can be as high as 45 and close to 50%. So you have an opportunity to have a major impact, but let's focus on the fact that the minority community has been underserved, and it's about time we do something about it. Thank you.
Commissioners,
Go ahead.
one last thing here. I don't believe we're allowed to use our CDBG
And that's what I
funds.
was going to respond. The City of Elyria and City of Lorain, the two communities that the question was directed at, receive HUD dollars, and it's their requirement, not the county, to provide those services. If there's minority businesses outside those two communities and outside of North Ridgeville, because North Ridgeville is an acquired community of the state, all other jurisdictions you can use your funds for, but we're exclusive, we are prohibited from using our funds in those three communities in Lorain County.
Thank you, Ron.
If there are no other questions, I have just a summary. Lorain County has utilized primarily three programs in the past years. These three programs include the Community Housing Improvement, or CHIP program, formula allocation, which we get every year, and that's what I talked about, our funding allocation for today, and then the Economic Development Program, where we provide public infrastructure for communities based on jobs created. We are right now actively working to acquire a water and sewer grant through the CDBG allocations. The one we're working on and are hopeful is in Amherst Township. So there will be 4 programs, hopefully, that we will have success with through the CDBG program. If there are no other questions or comments, then I would ask that you close this public hearing, and I thank everybody for their attention and questions that they've asked. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, seeing no questions, I move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
It's 10:15, perfect timing.
We got a public hearing on Catholic Health Care Partners on the issuance of the hospital facilities revenue bond, Series 2006, in the amount not to exceed $450 million.
I'm going to call on Mr. Twinian again.
Well, and also,
He's going to make some introductions.
I'm going to make an introduction. There's 2 people that are here today. We will start out with Mary Duffy. She is bond counsel for the Community Health Care Partners, and with us also representing Lorain County is Tom Anusko, and he is with Voyers, Saders, Seymour, and Pease. So Mary will make the presentation at this point.
Commissioners, Mary Duffy from Peck, Schaefer, and Williams. Again, we are bond counsel for this proposed bond transaction. And Tom Anusko is serving as special issuers counsel for the transaction as well. The public hearing and the resolution that is on your agenda for consideration later in your meeting is for the issuance of $450 million in bonds for the benefit of Catholic Health Care Partners. Those bonds are conduit bonds. They're private activity bonds. That means that although the county issues the bonds, there are no county revenues or taxpayer dollars or county dollars of any sort that go to their repayment or their support. They are solely paid back from the revenues of Catholic Health Care Partners and its local affiliates, including, of course, St. Joe's and the Ireland Cancer Center. The bonds will be used for projects throughout Ohio because as part of this bond issue, and this started in 1997, this is the 6th bond issue to be done in this way, the county, Catholic Health Care Partners, and several other counties throughout the state partner together to issue one bond issue. That presents both time and economic efficiencies, and by combining these bond issues into one bond issue, the healthcare system, the nonprofit healthcare system, is able to borrow at a much lower rate and confers that benefit to each individual hospital than any of the hospitals could borrow on an individual basis. There will be public hearings and resolutions by the other counties in which bond proceeds will be spent. The Lorain County Economic Development Commission met this morning and considered the bond issue, and I believe, Ron, that they recommended it to the commissioners. No more than $175 million will be spent at any individual facility. That's a large number, and that's the number that will probably be spent for the hospital that will be built in Lima, in Allen County. One question that sometimes comes up is how can we issue bonds for a Catholic healthcare system? Recall that since there is no county support for the actual payback of the bonds, it's not a violation of the Establishment Clause of the Constitution of the United States. And in addition, no dollars go for any secular, it's all for health care, it's not for any proselytizing or any prayer facility or worship center. I can answer any questions about the bond issue itself. The bonds will be sold in an auction rate mode. They'll be purchased by Bear Stearns, a large investment bank from New York, who will sell them to mutual funds, primarily mutual funds, in denominations no smaller than $100,000 so that we know who's buying them are sophisticated investors. The bonds will be rated on the basis of Catholic Healthcare Partners rating AA-, which is very high investment grade. The bonds will be insured. That means the bondholders are assured of payment. That insurance extends for the life of the bonds, and that will give the bonds a AAA rating, which is the highest rating that can be conferred on any debt instrument. Again, the county, no revenues of the county will go to the repayment, and in fact the county charges a fee to issue the bonds, which is meant to recompense it for some of the trouble that it undergoes and the administrative burden of issuing the bonds. That fee will be $25,000. Commissioners, I can again answer any questions about the bond issues. There are representatives of Catholic Healthcare Partners who I think would like to speak to you just about how the dollars will be used now, how the dollars have been used in the past on past bond issues. Do you have any questions for me? Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mary. Morning, Gary.
Good morning. My name is Gary Wingard. I'm the Chief Financial Officer for Community Health Partners. Community Health Partners is one of 9 regions of Catholic Healthcare Partners. And while we're here and to ask for your support with this issue today, with the $450 million issue here, a piece that Community Health Partners doesn't have any major construction projects that are currently underway. So our portion of this is small. At this point, it's probably between 10 and 11 million. But however, when you look at previous issues that have been offered through Lorain County, we currently have about $70 million in debt on our financial statements, of which by participating through Catholic Healthcare Partners pooled financing, we receive a much more favorable interest rate than if we were to try to do this on our own. The mission of Community Health Partners and Catholic Healthcare Partners is to extend the healing ministry of Jesus by improving the health of our communities with special emphasis on the poor and the underserved. One of the ways that we really track how we're doing in meeting our mission is in the community benefit that we give back to the community. There are 3 major areas that we track community benefit dollars. One is the dollar. In fact, in 2005, we gave back to the community in our costs, not in our charges, $16.2 million in community benefit, which is about 7.3% of our operating expenses. That's broken into 3 categories. First is the care that we give to those who don't have the ability to pay. The second category is the difference between what it costs us to treat a Medicaid patient and what we receive from Medicaid for that care. And the third is really the discretionary spending, that things that we choose to do. And a couple of areas that you may not be aware of is our support for in the central Lorain area for the St. Joseph Community Center. Since 1997, we've provided about $4.3 million in support to keep that program operational. The other thing that we've done over the last couple of years is supported it's a federally qualified health center in central Lorain, Lorain County Health and Dentistry, and we've provided financial support also for them to make up the difference between what it costs them to deliver care, primary care, and what they receive in terms of reimbursement. So, thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Anyone else wishing to speak on this issue?
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm Sister Carol Ann Griswold. I'm Senior Vice President for Mission at Community Health Partners. When Gary talked about the dollars that we are using to give back to the community, I just like to put faces on that, because I think so often when we hear dollars, it means dollars. And I'd like to tell you a couple stories of the programs we offer as part of community benefit. These are programs that we don't have to do as a hospital, but we choose to do because we feel there's a need in the community, and that's part of our mission, extending the healing ministry of Jesus. One example is our Resource Mothers program. That reaches out to women who are poor, who are pregnant, and who usually do not have the means to get into prenatal care or to have all the luxury of choosing a physician and getting the kind of care they would like. We go to them, get them into a program where they will have a healthy pregnancy, and then we follow them for a year so that children, the babies, are immunized properly. I think we have a 98% accomplishment of the immunizations with the babies. And if any of you have worked in the public with children and immunizations, you know that's real difficult to attain. The mothers come through with healthy pregnancies, and they're very grateful. The women we have working in this program most of them are women who have been poor, and they have been helped, and they now in turn are going out and helping other women. And they have the training and the help they need to be able to support these women through pregnancy. Another program we do, again, we don't have to do this, and sometimes we wonder why, but we know why we do it, is the Parish Nurse Program. And we are connected to over 220 churches in the greater Lorain County, and that's churches of all faith dimensions. That one is strictly devoted to teaching about health, promoting health, and helping people in the different kinds of programs that they need to be able to have a healthy lifestyle. And we know that in all of these things, we're preventing disease and disorders, that we don't have to treat them later and they don't have to go through life with some type of illness that could have been prevented. I mentioned earlier that through the Parish Nursing Program, people have lost thousands of pounds because of the teaching, the exercising, the diet, and the programs that they have been a part of. So that's a real accomplishment. They've reduced cholesterol. They've been able to assume a new lifestyle because of being healthy. Right now, one of the parts of the Parish Nursing Program is what we call Project Temple, and that's done with a grant from the state on minority health. What we do in that one is it's a prevention of diabetes among African Americans and the Hispanic population, where that disease is very high in incidence. And so with that program, we spend a lot of energy working in the community. We have 7 congregations committed to that. And their pastors are actually very involved in the exercising, leading the parishioners, and that's all prevention of diabetes, and that's a 2-year project. Right now it's being very successful in getting people into the kind of lifestyles that will prevent the diabetes. So that's a couple of the examples to put faces. The people come back. They're very grateful for what we can offer them. We don't have to choose to do those, but we do, and we're able to because of being a part of the system that we are. If you have questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Who's going to lead in that dance?
I never know if I should go before you or not. My name is Steve Yagello, 50221 State Route 303, Wellington. Also, I serve as president of North Central Ohio Building Trades. We had occasion yesterday, I had occasion to meet with Mr. Nasaka and Mr. Wengert yesterday, officials with the hospital. And as always, our concern whenever there's bonding issues is to what the benefit is going to be to the county, to the people in the county, the workers in this county, our contractors in this county, as far as any building that's going to be created in regards to those bonds. It was a very productive meeting, and I will say those two individuals have a deep commitment to not only the hospital but the community. As the sister just reported, I was sort of amazed at some of the other programs that the hospital is involved in to help the less fortunate people of Lorain County. And believe me, that's amazing. It's something I don't think that we hear too often, or not often enough, I should say, of the good things that happen behind the scenes. As far as the revenue bonds, it was reported that a small portion is going to stay in Lorain County, but I feel any portion that's going to stay in Lorain County to benefit this county in the growth of that health care system certainly is going to be beneficial for all of the county and its residents. And I would just ask you today for your consideration in issuance of those bonds, that it be favorable, and I, as president of North Central Ohio Building Trades Council, are in full support of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning, Mike.
Mike Sherman, Eaton Township. I'm here on behalf of Brian Baker, President of the Lorain County AFL-CIO. As Steve had indicated, we had the opportunity to sit down with Mark Nasaka and Gary Wigan from Community Health Partners last evening, along with Bond Counsel. And again, as I stated in the CIC board meeting this morning, wanted to thank County Administrator Jim Cordes for facilitating that. We were able to get a lot of issues on the table, talked about a lot of things, but the most productive thing that came out of that meeting last night was that we opened some dialogue and some communication, and we have some commitments on both sides, what our respective roles in the community are, a very positive meeting, what our role in economic development is. Had the occasion to meet Sister Doris and Mike Benzie and Sister Carol Ann and Mike Pazzo this morning. They reaffirmed those commitments to the and concerns and issues, and committed to that open dialogue and open communication. They reiterated that to the CIC board meeting this morning, and I too want to lend my support and for your consideration of that bond issue.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Commissioners, prior to closing the public hearing, I will announce that we did have a CIC meeting, or the Lorain County Economic and Industrial Development Corporation meeting, at 8:30 this morning. They heard the discussion and a similar presentation. The recommendation of the CIC was for approval. They're recommending that to the Board of Commissioners. We also had Tom Anusko as legal counsel reviewed the documents prepared by and submitted through Mary Duffy, and he will continue to work, and the information that we've received have also been reviewed by Jerry Ennis, the Assistant County Prosecutor. And so at this point, if there's no other comments, you'll need to close the public hearing. Oh, apparently there's somebody behind me. But I just wanted to make sure you knew that the recommendation had been made.
Thank you, Ron.
Morning, Commissioners. My name is Mike Lauer with the Service Employees International Union, District 1199, Healthcare and Social Service Workers Union, 939 Broadway Avenue in Lorain. And just wanted to make a brief comment. Talked to Brian Baker and Mike Sherman this morning, and in between the CIC meeting and this meeting, also spoke with some of the folks from Community Health Partners, and very, very encouraged to hear about the dialogue that's been established between CHP and the labor community here. Dialogue is very important, and I feel like this was a huge progressive first step. Look forward to continuing that dialogue. Obviously, as a representative of SEIU and 550 nurses at Community Health Partners, have an interest in maintaining that sort of dialogue. So just wanted to make a comment and look forward to working with these folks. So thank you for your time.
Shirley R. Johnson, Oberlin. We've heard bond counsel assure us that there is no violation of the Establishment Clause in approving these bond issues, and I believe she's correct. I think that the issue of whether you approve them or not has to do with how they help the county and whether there is any cost to the county and the taxpayers of the county, which we've been assured there haven't. But some of the other spokespeople have spoken regarding the religious mission of these hospitals, and that's fine too, that they have the right to do that. But I want to remind folks, since they've been given that opportunity, that there are people in this county who do need certain kinds of family reproductive services that are not provided by this religious organization. And I think that if they're going to have an opportunity to tell you all about their mission, somebody should mention some of the things that they do not provide.
Thank you, Shirley. Is there anyone else?
Madam Chair, before we move on this, I would just like to add this comment was made at the CIC meeting this morning. It was a request, I believe, from Brian Baker, according to my notes, that the commissioners write to the commissioners, our fellow commissioners in the neighboring counties who are going to be advantaged by these bonds, asking them to pay special attention to the benefits of the prevailing wage law and its implementation. And so I will ask that we in fact do that, and our administrator will craft a lovely letter for us to sign.
I thought Brian asked Betty to write the letter, Jim.
When he called him commissioner,
Yes,
let
he
him
did.
do it.
I'd be happy to do so, Commissioner. Thank you.
Well, I worked for Community Health Partners since 1993, and it was a wonderful employer for me, and it's a very good hospital. We need to do anything we can do for any of our major employers in this county, and I think they're one of the biggest ones in the city of Lorain, just to help them. And what we're doing is saving them an interest rate, a lower interest rate. We're only benefiting the $25,000 fee, and they're benefiting by not having to pay as much interest. So I would definitely support this when it comes time to do so, but at this time I'm going to close this public hearing. Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Any further discussion? Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Number one.
Where are we here?
So we'll go to number one now under resolutions. Determining the necessity of and authorizing the issuance of hospital facilities revenue bonds, Series 2006 Catholic Healthcare Partners, in one or more series in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $450 million. Authorizing the execution and delivery of an indenture of trust securing said bonds. Authorizing the execution and delivery of agreements of lease and an amendment and a restated sublease. Authorizing the execution and delivery of a tax regulatory agreement with respect to said bonds. Authorizing the execution of a contract of purchase. Approving preliminary and financial official statements in respect of said bonds, and taking other related action.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Yes. You said it's been a very long week with the issues between Catholic Healthcare Partners, as Commissioner Kukowski said, and their goodwill of the community and all they do, especially in downtown Lorain, which I appreciate. We need all the help we can get. And labor out there. It was nice that Jim was able to facilitate a meeting, that we've got you guys all on board supporting this issuance of bonds, because it was a very difficult issue all week, as I've spoke to many of you. So, as I said, I'm ready for the vote. But thank you very much for all your participation and helping us through this issue.
Don't start any bad rumors.
Woo! Ms. Kowski.
Aye.
Mr. Kalo.
Aye.
Ms. Blair.
Aye.
Let's
Mr.
see.
Cordez?
Mr. Cordez.
It's already been a long meeting. I'll reserve any comment, except to remind you about the executive session, but I'll have plenty to say next week. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Scott Saracen.
Thank you. I'm here for Jerry Ennis today, substituting for him. I have no report. Thank you.
Your microphone wasn't on, Scott. They couldn't hear you. Push the button up.
Okay. My name is Scott Saracen. I'm here for Jerry Ennis today, substituting for him, and it's always a pleasure to do so. But I have no report today from the prosecutor's office. Thank you.
Commissioner's report.
Well, I was on vacation last week and sick most of this week, so I really don't have much of a report today, so I'll reserve it for Mr. Kalo and Mrs. Blair.
Well, it's been a very busy week between events and all the communication between labor and Catholic Healthcare Partners and community partners. It's just nice that we could come together and make things work out. So that's it for my report this week. Commissioner Blair?
Thank you. At the Peace and Justice dinner last Saturday at St. Joseph's Parish Hall in Amherst, I found this wonderful pamphlet entitled Lorain County Furniture Bank. And then I opened it up, and on the back it says, "This brochure printed courtesy of Lorain County Board of Commissioners." This is a wonderful program that we participate in conjunction with all these other people. And one of the awardees at that program was the Sacred Heart Parish, because they work in the distribution of this Lorain County Furniture Bank. And it's a wonderful thing. I want to commend our department. It says last year, over 187 families and or individuals received assistance with donated furniture, well over $100,000 in used furniture value. Hal's got the phone number for this, so if anybody needs assistance or has furniture they'd like to donate, call that number. It's area code 440. It's 240-0089, and they'll put you in touch with where you can get or give. It's a wonderful program in Lorain County. I think solid waste is well advised to be part of it. I want to thank them. Another thing that Mr. Cordez has been working on, and I want to support him on this, and I went to a meeting last Friday for the Center for Community Solutions in Cleveland, primarily because I wanted a copy of Richard Sheridan's book, What It Means for Ohio's Future. This is the Taft record, and if you're registered, you got this book. So I got one for myself, and I brought another one back for Mr. Cordez. He's going to read it because it talks about the local government fund. I'm going to give it to him. I'm not going to gift wrap it, though. But anyway, there's a handout that this agency is putting forward, Center for Community Solutions, tells about the Coalition for Ohio's Future and the Tabor issue, and they are strongly against it. And there's a 2-page document telling why they are not in favor of it. It has a great deal to do with Lorain County's future and the future of all political subdivisions in Lorain County, and I think we need to educate ourselves on it. So I had that to share with my fellow commissioners, and anybody else who wants a copy, Joyce will make you a copy. And then finally, I see Rebecca Gray is here. Rebecca, do you have anything to say today?
You covered it beautifully.
Oh, thank you. I get A? All right. I rest my case. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Just let the commissioners know I did send you an email. I'm going to a CCAO meeting tomorrow for the clerks in Willard, Ohio, so Huron County. Board correspondence?
2 things, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Item number 1, Teresa, would you please read that? I think that's really important.
April 20th from 5 to 7 at Lorain County Community Center, Spitzer Center, Lorain County Solid Waste Management District will have a kickoff event for the Cigarette Butt Litter Campaign.
another event for our solid waste. And item number 4, do you have any background information on that? Do you even know where we are?
I do.
Thank you.
I wasn't aware of I didn't read the correspondence, but it's probably just the anticipated distribution coming up for this year.
Okay.
I think they were talking about the population switch.
Well, do we really want to get into that whole population switch thing right now?
No, but I just thought maybe something we need to be aware of, and I didn't have any more information, and I didn't follow up on it.
It's coming soon, Commissioner.
Very soon, more rapidly than we really care to admit, and we will have to have extensive dialogue within the next few months on that. But I wanted, if I may, for a second, Commissioner Blair, thanks for bringing up the Tabor issue, and within the next week or two, I'll be having some dialogue here with you, and I'm going to be requesting that the board take an official position with respect to Tabor and pass some resolutions, either supporting or opposing. Well, I was waiting. I didn't know what your decision would be, but I was hopeful, and take a leadership role in that within the county, and then to start sending that around to other counties. And I'm going to be having extensive dialogue next week with county administrators around the state to begin the same process. It's probably the biggest piece of garbage legislation I've seen in my time in government, and we need to stand out there and at least lend our support to making sure that doesn't get approved on the November ballot.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So would you like to make a motion to waive the rest of it?
Yes, also move.
Okay.
Second.
Any further discussion? Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Public comment?
Shirley R. Johnson, Oberlin. As interesting and informative as these meetings often are, we have often indicated that some of the county spokespeople can not always be heard. And this was true today. We don't like to keep calling out about this, but neither do we want to spend more time listening to your broadcasts in order to hear what some of you have said.
You don't want to watch the game twice?
No.
Well, when we get our new facilities in June, you'll be able to hear us all the time.
Well, you do have, I don't worry about you, Mr. Kayla. We can hear you. But there are some, and they know who they are, who can't be heard. And it really is, and today there were some important things said by one of those people that we would have liked to have heard about, but we couldn't hear it all.
Speak up, Jim.
Is it me? I can't.
Is it you? Who is it? Jim.
I'm sorry. I don't even mind it's constructive input. You can't hear yourself up here because of the bad dynamics in the room. So a lot of times you think you're projecting perfectly well, and you're not. I don't take it very poorly if somebody says speak up.
Well, you don't use your speaker, and particularly I will be specific now. In relation to County Commissioner Blair's request to you to explain about the renovation of the building, you turned and spoke to her or to them, and in a soft voice. I don't know whether you could hear me.
I appreciate that comment. I've never been told I speak in a soft voice.
And I'm sure that she knows all about that stuff you were telling in her direction, but the rest of us didn't. We also, at least some of us, have been interested in the dog controversy in the city of Lorain. I thought I heard one of the phrases you used in talking about something that you talked about first, city of Lorain. But I figured that's what you were talking about, and I would have liked to have heard about it, but I didn't. And I may have a slight hearing problem, but I think others in the room do.
Well, I also have some headphones that we have now for the new conference room where you can put them on and they increase the volume of what's being said in the room. You do look like something from Lost in Space when you're reading them, when you're using them, but they will be available in the new room.
He's very soft-spoken. He is.
Oh, I bet.
Well, only here, Shirley. Only here. You know, I have sat in your seats there at other meetings, and that water fountain runs continuously, and it's a very bad place to sit when you want to hear what's going on up here, especially, even with people who have the microphones. You're absolutely right. It's certainly at a disadvantage, especially in that quadrant of the room. I always have to remind myself that I don't want to sit there when I'm in the audience.
You know, Commissioners, the new layout, the new layout of the bench that's being built right now in the new hearing room has different angles on it. So we'll be able to have dialogue a little bit better with the audience and the commissioners. Unfortunately, I agree with what you're saying, but when I'm responding to a commissioner, I like to make a little bit of eye contact and talk directly to a question. Then you swivel your head back and forth like you're on a pivot here. So we've taken some of the angle off the benches and improved some of the presentation ability of the people from the podium. I think you'll be quite pleased. We did try to take all of those constructive inputs that have been provided to us over the last few years and incorporate them into our new room to make it a better environment for the people that come to visit us. You also will have tables, too, so put your stuff on and write on. And, okay.
Elizabeth Remix Oberlin, for what consolation it is. This is a particularly ongoing problem with the Oberlin City Council also, but unfortunately they don't have new facilities in the wings, and so it's an ongoing struggle there too with some people.
Well, we're in good company then. Not you, David, huh? You speak loud, right? Good.
I see no one else, so I make a motion that we go into...
No, we're going to do 9:45, the presentation from Litchland Engineering on the bridge.
We have a special treat this morning, Commissioners, and I'm going to speak up because this has been another bone of contention I've had with the City of Lorain and how they've handled the public release of information on our partnership with the bridge lighting. I remember getting a phone call from Commissioner Kalo one morning saying, how come the mayor knows all this about this grant and we don't know anything about it? And he must have immediately called the papers after he got a copy of an email to the county saying the county had received a grant from ODOT to bring in a fourth partner to the bridge lighting, and there it was in the front page of the Journal before we even got to read our email. And then some promises were made concerning timeframes that the project would be completed. The only way we would have made the completion timeframes is those detailed by the city is we would have went to Kmart and bought a couple Christmas lights and dangled them off the bridge. Right? Now, we all know how well the county does their projects, and I have no problem holding our projects up to their project, but why get into that banter right here? We're very successful at completing our projects within the required timeframes and laws and parameters that we operate under. That said, we had to do a lot of engineering. We had to work with ODOT. We had to go through the scoping process. They came on board as partners. We've done a lot of work with them. They're great people to work with, but they have some stringent requirements that have to be met. And if you don't meet those requirements, guess what? You don't get the money. Plus the money is 2007 money, so we're moving rather smartly towards that July 1st date when that money is available, and we are a bit ahead of schedule. But I thought at this point it would be really nice to have a presentation on the project to let the public know what's going on and to bring the board more up to date. That contrary to what you read, the project is well on track and doing very, very fine. And Karen Davis has been spearheading this for you and myself, and I'm very pleased with the progress made. And with that, I can either turn it over to Karen or I can turn it over to the group. How do you want to go, Karen?
My name is Dean Palmer. I'm chairman of Richland Engineering Limited. I'm the project manager for this particular project, and I have with me Todd Moore with Mart Applecroft Associates. They're doing the actual design work for the lighting project. And what we're here to present is the aesthetic lighting project that's coming up for the Charles Berry Memorial Bridge. The proposed work is floodlighting of the pier buildings, floodlighting of the moving truss span in the closed position, and floodlighting of the moving truss span in the open position. The proposed floodlights that will be lighting up the bridge are an LED type, new technology. There'll be 24 colors available on the moving truss span. There'll be a white color only on the pier buildings. The lights will be designed to limit the spill of the light, which means that we're going to focus the light only where we want it to be. These light fixtures are low voltage and they're low maintenance. This next slide, the first slide of the pictures, shows representation of what the bridge would look like with the aesthetics lighting completed. You can see the uplighting on the pier buildings and the floodlighting of the truss span over the river. The next slide represents just the lighting on the pier buildings itself to show how the uplighting will be coming up from the ground and washing the walls of the pier buildings with light. The next slide represents just the floodlighting on the truss spans over the river. And we have a couple of different views of that. And then there's a slide that shows a green color on the truss spans, which will be one of the options. They can be changed from time to time. And then there's another slide with the red lighting on the truss spans. And then we get into a slide that represents the project schedule. The plans are pretty much done at this point in time. But they'll be submitted within the next month through the county and the Ohio Department of Transportation by May 3rd, 2006 for their reviews. Those reviews will be completed in June. The final plan and bid documents will be submitted in November of this year. We expect approval from the Ohio Department of Transportation after they go through their processes. Approval to advertise for the bids in January of 2007. The construction project bids in February of 2007. The construction project would begin in March of 2007 and be completed by June of 2007. Project funding, the county has secured enhancement funds from the Ohio Department of Transportation in the amount of $150,000. Local funds expenditures are expected to be on the order of $100,000. So at this time, if anybody has any questions, we'll entertain those.
Commissioners, just a couple comments for clarification purposes. Last week, when the Journal did an update on the project, they showed the picture of the demonstrated lighting that was interwoven in the bridge superstructure. That is not the type of lighting that's being used on the bridge. That's a kind of LED lighting that's in vinyl encased and so forth. It's a different concept of lighting. So what was demonstrated isn't direction that we're going into, and I want to explain why. And that's because there was significant concern on ODOT's part about making attachments onto the bridge superstructure, and they were not comfortable allowing fasteners and lighting to be attached to the steel of the bridge. They felt that there was going to be considerable maintenance concerns and interference with maintenance, and then you had to dangle people off the side of the bridge to do upkeep on the lighting systems, and you can just visualize all the rest of the et ceteras here that were going on. So this proposal has no lighting, as it's indicated in here, on the structure of the bridge itself, the steel itself, correct?
That's correct.
It will be program controlled so that you can program in schemes for the lighting, and I understand we're going to, as part of the bid, we'll have a certain amount of scenarios that we can automatically pull up. Is that correct?
Yes, there'll be 8. You have 8 scenes.
Okay.
8 pre-programmed scenes that plus you'll have the ability to make adjustments to that as well.
Okay. And those controls will be placed in a tower that's operated, that's currently manned, right?
Correct, on the west side.
Okay. So just a couple things that weren't reported earlier with this, and I just wanted you to know that, when you see that picture, that's not the direction that this project is taking in, and this is a much safer much more precise and a better way of doing it, not to mention the fact that you're not going to have the spillover into navigable waterways that you would have a problem with if it was on the superstructures. Is that?
Yeah, that's correct. That's one of the concerns, is that we not interfere with the navigation on the river with the lighting, or on the highway, on the roadway.
So, I mean, there was a lot of consideration had to go into this, and these gentlemen have done a fine job with this. Everybody thinks things are really easy, and there's a lot to consider, and not the least of all is that it's a navigable waterway, and we got to go through the Coast Guard, and there's a lot of approval processes and people that have to be involved. So I think we're progressing nicely. We're a little bit ahead of the schedule that's already in here. I'm hoping that we can accelerate and maybe gain some time. But when it's done, it's going to be done right. And I will guarantee that it'll be no less than the schedule that's in here, and hopefully we're going to do better than that schedule that's in here. And I think Karen and I, I've talked about that, and we think we can be a little bit more aggressive on some of those time frames.
Madam Chair, I'd just like to comment on our State of the County address. I commented that the bridge lighting was coming later. Ted, did you turn? Ted turned my microphone off. Thank you. He did. Well, I turned my back. Yeah. And on the State of the County address, I commented on the bridge lighting, and I said that I thought it was coming later this year. So I stand corrected, and I just want to publicly mention that it's not coming until June of 2007, according to this. So
That teaches you not to believe what you read in the newspaper.
Speak up, Jim. They couldn't hear that.
I said that teaches you not to believe what you read in the newspaper.
At midnight, you were not available to correct me.
Well, it's a very nice-looking project. Can't wait for it to happen. So thank you, guys.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Are you excited, Charles Mackin? Got a new tie, huh? Got a new tie, huh?
Not quite the Fremont experience in Las Vegas, but it's close, right?
I would just like to make a comment. I'll run up here real quick.
Don't run too fast.
It's almost lunch, right? I'd just like to make a comment. I'm Chuck Mack, and I'm the superintendent on the Basque Bridge. We've dealt with Dean and Todd from Richland Engineering and MKC for almost 20 years, or actually longer than 20 years. They were in charge of the bridge rehab back in the mid to the late 80s. And I think with them doing the operation and the engineering and everything on it, like Dean said, there was a lot that had to go into this, and it's not just as easy as everybody thinks. And Jim's well aware of that. So I think we'll get a good job. Myself and the bridge crew are going to be in charge of the inspection when the actual construction starts. And I know you'll be happy with the results, and look forward to it.
Commissioners, the one negative aspect of this is in meeting with ODOT, they've indicated that they will pay the increased utilities charges that comes with the lighting on the bridge as part of their support for the bridge, but they will not provide us with money to maintain the system after it's installed. So I need to make you aware that that's going to become a general fund liability and/or liability of the three partners that want the lighting to go in. The service life of this system, is my understanding, given the environment that it's in, is about 5 years. Is that accurate? I understand.
It's much more than that with these LED fixtures and stuff. Probably, 10 years without some major work to it.
What about the fixtures that are positioned close to the water? I understood we couldn't get stainless steel, and we were going with aluminum housings that were going to suffer the ill effects very rapidly of the environment. They were, especially with the corrosive salts coming off the bridge.
That's possible, yes.
So
generally, there may be some work to be done within 5 years, some minor works to keep it going. Probably the project is good for 10 years.
Okay.
We might want to have some dialogue with the partners. I mean, if we're partnering to install it, we should partner on the maintenance also.
No, that's one of the reasons I was throwing it out there to the board and see how you wanted to respond. When I was down at ODOT, they felt that at least the ones that were close to where the roadway was, where we may get some runoff, from the bridge, especially in the winter months, that we may have some accelerated corrosion on some of the fixtures, and that we wanted to make sure, they wanted to make sure we understood our obligations for maintenance of the system in the future. And I could certainly have that dialogue with them. But I want to make you aware of that. God willing, I'm hoping to still be here with you in a few years, and I don't want you to ask me why I didn't tell you this a few years ago, but that is a bit of an issue. It's not big, but it is an issue.
Okay. Thank you very much for your presentation today.
Thank you.
Done? Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we go into executive session.
Second.
Discussion? Ms. Kowski?
Aye.
Mr. Kayla?
Aye.
Ms. Blair?
Aye.
Unless otherwise announced, meetings are held Thursday mornings at 9:30 at the Lorain County Administration Building, 226 Middle Avenue, 4th floor, downtown Elyria. These are public meetings, and as always, you are invited to attend.
How you doing there? Here, have a treat, okay? No one can deny the loving devotion we get from our dogs, and I think we all agree we get back more love than we give them. I'm Dick Goddard. I'm reminding you, if you share your love with a dog, you'll never regret it. There's really nothing like a dog to spark up your life, whether you're a youngster, a senior citizen, or somewhere in between. And dogs have a whole lot of affection to share. Okay, is that good? You don't have to go far to hear heartwarming adoption stories.
With my husband is like saying man's best friend. He truly loves that dog. He feels it's part human. It's his second daughter, as Erica said. It's definitely a prize. She's queen of the house, basically. She's a good lover. She gives us a lot of attention. She's a good girl.
We had a cat before we had Abby, and Abby adapted very well. She is best friends with that cat. She will not harm that cat in any way. She's amazing. I love her. When I'm in bed at night, Abby will jump up with me and she will pull the covers back and she will lay under the covers and lay her head on the pillow just like a human.
I encourage anyone to go to the Lorain County Kennel to adopt a dog. It's given our family great satisfaction and a great reward.
After, a bad day at work or anytime you come home, it's just always nice. They kind of turn your mood around when you come in the door, and they wagging their tails and jumping on you, and it's a great feeling to know that they're happy to see you and that they love you just as much as you love them. She is good with our other dog. She's good with people. She likes attention, and she likes to